Dana here. Welcome to Sew Learn Create. As you can see by my shirt, I retired at the end of the school year in 2024, and I'm excited about the opportunity to create more content for the channel. So if you like our content, please click that subscribe button and hit the notification bell so you won't miss any of the new upcoming videos. For today's project, we'll be making a pouch that has a snap closure. This one I made with a loop so I could attach it to my purse, and I used it during the pandemic to hold my mask, so I always had one with me. And then I also created this one a little later that's just slightly larger without the loop. So let's get started. For today's project, the snap pouch, you'll need the following supplies. You'll need two pieces of fabric, one for your outer, one for your inner, that is 12 inches long by 5 inches wide if you want to make the small pouch, and 6 inches wide if you want to make the longer one, the wider one. You'll also need a ribbon if you want to add this loop to add it to your purse or backpack or something. You'll need some basic sewing supplies, and you'll also need a piece of batting to put on the inside to pad the pouch. So to create the pattern, we're going to round the top corners of our fabric. And I've already rounded my lining fabric, but I'm going to show you how to round your outer fabric. And I'm going to use just a coffee mug. Most people have them in their house, and it makes a real nice circle. So what you want to do is you want to put the coffee mug and line it up on both edges on one side and draw that curved edge. Then what I do is I take that and fold it in half, lining it up really well. And then I clip mine so it doesn't shift on me, but you don't have to if you can cut it without moving things around. And then what you do is you just cut on that drawn line, and you fold it right sides together so that your curve on both sides matches. I'm just going to cut along that line. And then when I unfold it, that gives me my rounded top. So the first thing after we create our two pieces is we're going to take our, create our kind of sandwich for our project. So we're going to lay our lining down. We're going to face up, and this is a solid fabric, so it really doesn't have a right side or a wrong side, but you want it, if it's a print like this, you want to make sure that that print is face up. Then we're going to take our outer fabric and place it on top, lining up everything. And we want that fabric to be face down, so pretty side to pretty side. Then we're going to take our batting and we're going to lay that on top of our unit. And then we're going to clip it all the way around to hold everything together. And we're going to leave an opening right down here at the bottom because we're going to stitch all the way around this, but we need a way to turn it right side out. So we're going to leave an opening here at the bottom, and I'm going to use my red and green clip as a reminder of where to stop and start. So I put my green clip on the left, my red clip on the right, and I want to leave about 2 fingers width of an opening. So I'm going to clip this all the way around, and I'll meet you back at the machine. If you want to add the loop to add a keychain or add it to a backpack or something, now is the time to do that. So you need 3 inches of ribbon, and it needs to be about 1/2 inch or a little more wide. And you're going to fold that in half with the raw edges together. Then you're going to take your pouch that you clip together, and you're going to fold up the bottom approximately 4 inches. And you're going to want to put that folded ribbon in between the bottom layers of your pouch with the raw edge facing out, the loop facing in between your outer fabric and your lining fabric. Right around in there. And you just want that to be about half an inch below the top unsewn edge. Somewhere around in there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to clip that so the ribbon will stay in place, but that also tells me that when I get to that, I'm going to do a little bit of back stitching there. All right, so again, you put that between your outer layer, your outside layer, and your lining fabric with the raw edges towards the outside edge and your loop towards the body of your pouch. So let's go to the machine. Now we're at the machine and we're going to stitch all the way around. And remember, we're using our red and green clip to leave this opening right here. So I'm going to start at my green, go all the way around, and stop at my red clip. So I'm going to take my green clip off. And I'm using the outside edge of my foot as my seam allowance. And it's a little larger than a 1/4 inch seam allowance. When I get to my corner, I'm going to put my needle down. I'm going to lift my presser foot, turn my project, and I want to make sure when I turn something that that fabric is lined up in a straight line with the edge of my foot again. Now, as you can see, when I get closer to this corner, my batting is a little bit longer and not as rounded. So I need to make sure that I'm watching that as I go around. When I come to the corner, I want to just slow down a little bit, and I don't want to stop. I just want to kind of ease around that corner. Take that clip off. This makes your corner a little more smooth, but if that's hard for you, then stitch a little bit, stop, and lift and turn your project. So again, I'm going to slow down, and I'm just going to ease around that corner. Then when I get back here, I'm going to make sure that I lift my presser foot and straighten my fabric up again. This clip is where my ribbon is because I can feel it underneath. So I'm going to take that clip off and make sure I hold that ribbon in place. I'm going to stitch over it, and then I'm going to back stitch because that ribbon will get a lot of tension on it. Come to the other corner, going to put my needle down, lift and turn making sure I line up, and then when I get to my red clip, I remove my clip and just kind of put my finger there to remind me where to stop. Get out. And as you can see, that curve is nice and smooth at the top. So let's go back to the mat for the next step. Now that we've stitched all the way around and we've left an opening at the bottom, I always double check, and when you have batting, you kind of have to move the batting out of the way and make sure that I caught all my layers all the way around. Because if you have to go back and stitch a hole, now is the time to do it before you turn it right side out. So then we're going to take and we're going to clean up this batting before we turn a little bit because I got it a little oversized. We're also, for our curves to turn nicely, you want to take and you want to do some tiny clips. Just like that. And see, I'm not anywhere close to my stitching. I just want tiny clips right outside at that curved edge through all my layers, my batting and my 2 layers of fabric. Just on this curved part right here. I'm going to flip it over and clip it from this side so you can see a little better. Just on that curve. And the reason for that is when you turn that curve right side out, that allows that fabric to give a little bit. The other thing I want to clip before I turn to reduce the bulk is right down here at the corners. I want to cut diagonal across the fabric corner, not anywhere near my stitching. If you cut your stitching, then you have to put it back in the machine and fix it before you turn it right side out. Now when I turn this, I want to make sure that I turn between my 2 layers of fabric so that my batting goes inside. And I like to go all the way to the opposite end, stick my thumb in, and kind of poke my thumb out to give me a big chunk to turn right side out. Turn it. And then I like to use a chopstick to poke my corners out. You don't want to use anything that's real sharp and pointy like scissors, because if you poke through your stitching, then you got to turn it wrong side out and fix that. And I'm going to put my chopstick all the way in, go up to my curved edge, and I just kind of run the chopstick along that seam and help that curve turn out nice and pretty. All right. Then I'm going to take and I'm going to just kind of roll the seam in my fingers, and what that does is it allows that seam to lay down, and it allows your seam to come to the top of your 2 layers of fabric. So I'm just going to kind of roll that all the way around, get that seam to pop up to the top, and then before I stitch anything else, I always want to take an iron and press my fabric. Down at the bottom where our opening is, I want to make sure that this lining fabric rolls in and my top fabric rolls inside. And I'm going to give that a really good press. Because when we go back to the machine, we're going to top stitch all the way around, closing up this opening right here. So if your fabric is rolled inside nice and flat, then it stitches up a little better. So let's go to the machine. Now we're going to top stitch all the way around our project, and our opening is right here. So I'm going to start down here by our opening. And for this top stitching, I want to use the inside edge of my foot as my guide, and that makes a real narrow top stitch, which will close this opening up nicely. Again, when I get to that corner, I'm going to leave my needle down, lift my presser foot, turn, and then you've got a lot of bulk here, so you may need to grab your project kind of at the bottom, and when you start stitching, gently pull it to give it a little bit of encouragement through that batting. There we go. And then just continue to stitch all the way around. When I come to my loop, I want to make sure that it's laying flat and that it hasn't gotten turned on top of my project. Again, when I come to that curve, I'm just going to go slowly, and I'm just going to curve it around, keeping it nice and smooth. Slowly go around that curve and turn as I go. Get back on this side where I'm straight, straighten it up, and continue on. Again, at that corner, I've got a lot of bulk right there. So when I turn it, I'm going to grab on the side and I'm going to give it just a little bit of a pull to make sure that I get it started. When I come back to my stitching, I'm going to cross that stitching just a little bit and back stitch to secure it in place. I'm going to clip my threads. Now we're ready to create our pocket. So I'm going to fold the sides up, and it's about it's about 3 3/4 inches up, not quite 4. I just want to make sure that this corner is above this loop that I put in. And I'm going to clip the sides. And I'm going to stitch just down the sides. And I'm going to try to stay right on top of that stitching so I only have one seam. But if you get off, it's really not that big a deal. So again, I'm going through a little bit of a bulk. I'm going to put my fabric, my needle, just a little below that corner. I'm going to stitch forward and then I'm going to back stitch over that corner edge and then forward again. And that will make it a little bit easier for the machine. So I'm going to stitch forward and I'm going to back stitch past the top edge, and then I'm going to go forward again. And that secures the top of that pocket. And I'm going to go all the way to the end. And I'm going to back stitch here at the bottom. Now when I do the other side, I like the bulk of my fabric to be out to the left so it's not in the well of my machine. So I'm actually going to start at the bottom. And again, I'm not going to start right on that edge because it's harder for the machine. I'm going to go up just a little bit, go forward, back stitch, and then forward again. Back stitch off that edge, forward again. Trying to stay right on that stitching line as best as possible. I'm going to go to the top, back stitch, and then forward again. Now we've created our pocket and our pouch part. We're going to go back to the mat and add our closure. Now we've created our pouch and we need to put some kind of a closure at the top. So I'm going to use the cam snaps or the plastic snaps, and they come in a box like this. I ordered mine from Amazon about 4 years ago, and it comes with all the tools and a bunch of snaps. And I've used this a lot and I still have snaps. So if you make the investment of this purchase, you'll probably use it for many, many years before you have to replace more snaps. But you could also, if you don't want to purchase that, you can go and just buy a sew-on snap. And I have pulled a bigger snap because I think that would work a little better than a small one. And you can get those at your local sewing supply store in various sizes. And if you want to know how to sew on a hand-sewn snap, watch my video. I'll put a link for it on how to sew on a snap. But we're going to use the cam snaps. So what we need to do first is we need to find the center of our pouch, and the easiest way is to fold it in half and press it so you have kind of a line down the front. Then you're going to fold it over, and you're not going to fold it right up next to that edge. You want just a little bit above that, because if you fold it right on top, then when you fill it, your pouch, it puts a little more stress on that pouch. So you want to leave just a little bit, about 1/4 of an inch above that. Then with your cam snaps comes an awl, and I'm going to choose, I want my snap about right there on that tennis shoe. So here's my center line, and it's about 1 inch up. And you can just determine on your fabric where that looks the best. I'm going to put that awl, and I'm going to go through all of my layers of fabric from front to back. And the reason for that is this lines up that hole on all my fabric. And then when I finish, I can just scratch that a little bit and that'll disappear. So to put your cam snaps on, you put your cap on the top of your fabric. And I like to kind of press it down on that point. And then you're going to take your male side, or the side with the straight edges, and you're going to put it on top. And then you use the tool, and you want to make sure that that cap goes right down in that black ring and kind of sits in there nice and neat, and then you just squeeze. And what you want to check is that center post that was there is now flat. Now to do this section, my cap has to come from inside. And I can see that hole that I poked all the way through, making sure these line up nice and straight. And I just kind of put it in place. Push that fabric so that that post comes out the top. And now I want to put the female side, or the rounded edge side of my cam snap. And this is a little tricky, but you make it to where that cap fits in that that black ring there. Line it up, and then again squeeze. Making sure that that center part is flat. And then you just snap it together. And that finishes your snap pouch. I hope you liked today's project, the snap pouch, and leave a comment below on how you plan to use your snap pouch. See you in the next one.